Climate change is the biggest global health threat of the 21st century, according to the National Resource Defense Council. That puts it in an interesting place to talk about for global studies. As it's one of the biggest issues facing our world, it's something that we can look at from many perspectives and think about how we can be engaged in as students, the solution to the problem. First off, why do we want to address the problem of climate change? What are its impacts? It's common knowledge that sea levels rise because of climate change, and as sea levels rise, coastlines are washed away, and this threatens human populations. Climate change causes extreme weather events. The NRDC says extreme weather events are costing more and more, and the number of billion-dollar weather event disasters is expected to rise. So it's very expensive to not mitigate climate change. Many of the root causes of climate change also increase the risk of pandemics, such as deforestation. So if we solve some of the problems that affect climate change, we also solve some of the problems that could put us in the position that we've been in the last year of more pandemics. The problem is humans have already transformed 3/4 of the world's land, leaving little green space, according to a BBC One documentary called Extinction: The Facts. What are we going to do to stop it? And how is that going to impact what happens in the future? Basically, if we stopped all carbon dioxide emissions tomorrow, we'd still see some effects, according to the NRDC. So what is the goal? The goal, according to Harvard, is that we should do all that we can to vastly reduce greenhouse gas emissions and limit global warming to 1.5 degrees. And that's actually lower than the Paris Climate Accord, which is keeping it under 2 degrees. And the Paris Climate Accord is what the C40 cities were based on. So a lot of people have come together around those figures, 1.5 degrees or 2 degrees Fahrenheit. And there have been global institutions that have set that as their target. And then we have on the national and subnational levels, cities and states engaging in trying to reach those same targets with green initiatives in their own cities. The U.S. is a really big part of this equation. The U.S. is about 15 to 16% of global emissions. So in keeping with that, we should have a big part in the solution and in reducing our emissions specifically. Amar Bhattacharya of the Brookings Institute said that we're the 15 to 16%. A big part of emissions is large oil companies as well, like ExxonMobil, Shell, BP, and Chevron. They're some of the biggest emitters of greenhouse gases, according to Columbia University. Another one that we can think about is household goods. Their use and production account for nearly 60% of greenhouse gas emissions, also according to Columbia. So when we think about how we can engage with solutions, we can think about reducing our use of products that need to be replaced very often and doing things like driving fuel-efficient cars or electric cars when we have that option, or taking public transit. Everett City is actually trying to phase in electric buses as the budget permits when the old diesel buses need to be replaced. So how do we look towards the future? Those are some solutions we have, but what hope do professionals in the field have that we could do in the future? Bhattacharya says that the two sources of hope for them are technology and innovation, and a growing recognition of global citizenry. And I think that recognition of global citizenry applies directly to this class, to harnessing what we learned to make us more involved in our local politics, in our daily lives, and in our intake of information to be more informed, and our interactions with companies so that we change a social pressure so that businesses are more green. Samantha Gross of the Brookings Institution says that a lot of investment in a lower carbon economy will be from the private sector. And as people think about climate in how they live their lives, they'll drive the private sector to do new things. And so that's the hope there, is that the actual social pressure of consumers pushes things towards reducing emissions. Washington State also has a program called Green Cities Partnership Network, which aims to increase city green space. So those are the kind of initiatives we can support when we talk to our local representatives or write letters. We can continue to support projects like that.